Okay, we're starting. Emma. Emma!
Oh my god.
Bro, why did you think that was smart?
It low-key worked.
No, stop dog from eating it now. Hi everyone, welcome to our second podcast. The topic that we're going to be covering is pressure and expectations. If you forgot our voices, hi, I'm Zach.
Hi, I'm Freya.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Maddie.
I'm Emma.
What up? I'm Justin.
I'm Lautaro.
Okay.
Same as last time.
We're gonna start with the fact that around 50% of kids in our high school feel like their parents have high expectations of them to perform well.
A lot of what we saw in the like results of the survey was that I think a lot of people at FIS just think that generally speaking they don't really have expectations of. They have high expectations of themselves, but not necessarily from their parents. Like some people just generally think like I'm at this school, I need to perform well, because I think all of us have this like consensus that like even getting a 6, it's like damn I got a 6 on this math test. If you were trying for a 7, then like as in you really expected to get a 7, then a 6 is like horrible, right? Like I don't know if that's just me or if that's anyone else. But.
No, I definitely feel like that as well. My parents don't put that much pressure on me. They just want me to do my best. But then if I don't get a good grade, I feel like disappointed in myself.
I would agree, 100%. It's not necessarily like sometimes your parents. For me, like there's a level of expectation that's not horrible, but like me myself, like I want to do well, you know. So when you come out of it with not what you were expecting, it can be extremely disappointing, regardless of if your parents are hard on you or not. And even if they aren't, sometimes it feels like they are because you want to impress them or give them a good perspective on you.
Like
Do
your
you
parents.
think like your parents put more pressure on you than like yourself, or like does it mostly
No.
just come?
I mean, like, my parents are okay with my grades if I'm not like terrible.
So like if you're like trying.
Yeah, so if I just
Yeah.
do it well, it doesn't have to be perfect, but
Yeah. So like for you, it's like there's not as much pressure
No.
on yourself. Like you're not putting like direct pressure on yourself,
No.
or no one else is doing that for you to like get good grades or stuff like that, right?
Like my parents, they want me to do well, but they're not gonna like, I don't know if they really like pressure me that hard into getting like straight sevens or anything.
No.
But they do like encourage me to get it.
Yeah, I think I remember like one of the main things that my mom always told me was like that she doesn't care about how I perform as long as she can see that my effort is like there, like I'm trying my best, right? Because like I don't know how it is. It definitely doesn't exist here, but in Australia we have like a when we have our grade, that we get like a box and whisker plot for like our grade, like where the average is, where the where we basically score if we're in the 90th percentile, if we're in the 10th percentile, whatever, right? But we also get alongside that, we also get like a where our effort key is on a scale of like 1 to 10. Like the teacher will then like basically judge like depending on how you're performing and how you've shown your potential whether or not you will. Maddie, can you just repeat what you just said because we kind of messed up a little bit, but Maddie just said that we read the statistic wrong basically. And
So
what is it?
basically,
No, we didn't.
we might.
Just read it out again.
Okay, so basically, our research that we did from our survey says that about 90% of the 270 students who answered feel like their parents have high expectations of them to perform well, while about 50% of people said that they have high expectations of themselves.
So basically like from the survey, 50%.
And less than 15% say that they don't have any expectations of themselves.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty small number considering that we sampled like the
20.
entire upper school
Yeah.
of our school. Like only 50% saying that they don't feel like 15.
Yeah.
That's
yeah, but no one is gonna.
Yeah.
No one wants to
Okay,
Have-
forget no.
bad grades, man.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like,
Yeah.
that obviously no one wants to get bad grades, but I feel like a lot of people sometimes have like that.
Like an more pressure than they should have, you know?
Yeah. The pressure is definitely there. So I think that all of us, generally speaking, have expectations of ourselves, but I think also like people don't really want to say when they have a really like high expectations from like their parents, because
Yeah.
it comes off, it like paints their parents as like bad people, I guess, kind of.
Yeah.
So
But
then-
sometimes like the pressure's not always bad.
Would you say that like
You like yourself have like does that pressure that you put on yourself, if you do put any on yourself, like do you think that affects you negatively or like more positively? Like does it motivate you or does it just like make you feel worse when you're stressed, you know?
It does both, for sure.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
about to say that.
I think for me, it's definitely both. Like, of course, it motivates me to want to like study hard and do the best I can. But then also, if I don't get the grade I worked for,
It's so-
I feel horrible about myself.
It's so weird you have that constant stress. like there's always something coming up, like there's always an assignment, or like we have our whole lives planned out with like deadlines until like the end of 12th grade. Like you feel like you always have to be doing something.
I think what we're kind of saying is that like it really depends on your mindset, because if you put like a lot of pressure on yourself, it can make you like feel like you want to do your best, but at the same time like it's really like it really depends on what you think, on like how you handle like rejection. If you mess up on something, like you can either feel horrible about it because of all the pressure you put on yourself, or you can think like, oh, like I can just try again harder next time, you know. But I feel like that's not really the case for a lot of people, like especially at our school.
Right.
Like I don't really see, I like you don't really see people getting like 4s and being like, oh, I studied so hard, I guess I'll just try better next time. Like
It's like I'm
It's-
gonna
you're
die.
mad.
You're like, because I feel like
People are already pissed about like a 5 or a 6.
yeah, no, because it's the thing is like when you look at the like
But if you look at the actual IB criteria,
5 is
a 4
good,
is good, 5 is
It's
like
very good.
6 is like
excellent,
crazy, and then
7
like
is 100%.
7 is
It's like
unreachable.
above and
People
beyond. but,
act like 5 is just the average what you get
Mm.
for like not trying at all.
Yeah, but because like I feel like what at least what I feel is it is in like FIS specifically is that like when you get like a 4, it's like hi dog.
If you
Okay,
guys
when you
feel like-
when you get a 4 or like below, it's like laughable in terms of like you're not even looking at it like, oh my god, I did so bad. It's like look at that, right? I did so bad, right? But then when you get like a 5, it's like you didn't try hard enough to get a 6 or a 7.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's just kind of like the culture at FIS.
Mm.
Like,
Because
But
everyone
does that
just
pressure come from
expects-
ourselves or from the
expects a
school
7.
itself?
I think it's everywhere, because like people just like the new people come and they like don't like, maybe people that haven't been in like an IB system before, and then like
don't
everyone
know
automatically
that.
just tells you, oh yeah, no, people usually get 5s, but like you want to get like 6s and 7s.
Yeah, it sounds easy, but it's not.
And also what we saw, okay, for more like pressure related stuff, we had a question that's like who or what puts the most pressure on you, and we just had like a bunch of options, but almost 50% of people said that the most pressure comes from themselves. And then we saw like almost 30% of people said right after that is schoolwork. And we kind of covered schoolwork in the last podcast. So what do you guys think about like that? Like only 30% of people saying that that's like the most driving factor.
I think like people think they put pressure on themselves, but that pressure like that they do put on themselves comes from other people. Like other people influence you, and like the school and a lot of like factors go into like you even feeling bad about
Yeah,
it.
but could you like explain that statistic of what people are just saying that a lot of people are saying that most of their time is taken up, or that they're kind of pressured by the amount of schoolwork they have?
That's about a third of people said that.
Yeah, no, I feel like definitely like because even today I am rushing to get things done because we have so much stuff. So we targeted upper school generally speaking, right? So if
Only from 9 to 12.
from 9 to 12, right? So like half of that third is probably in IB, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a combination between people themselves and how they deal with stress, and IB students like mandatory stress basically. I want to say mandatory stress because it's just like such a normal thing for IB students to be like, I didn't submit this on time, or I don't have enough time for this.
Well, it's
I think-
definitely a lot of work. Yeah.
I think it's also if you talk to any teachers, they're like, yeah, well, you got to learn how to prioritize and decide what things not to put so much time on. But then I feel like I'm not trying my best. Everyone's like, put your hardest work in, but then you have to learn how to, like, what things to toss as well, and I think that's very difficult.
How's pressure affect you? 66.4% saying negatively, and it weighs on you. It makes you feel more stressed. I'm gonna stop that with-
80% said positively.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really.
You want
That's a
stress.
concerning
you're-
statistic.
it affects you both.
I mean,
like,
if you don't have
positively.
stress like in your life, you're not going to do anything.
Right.
There's
but-
definitely a kind of person that 18% is though, and I feel like it really does depend on the person. Because like I know personally for me, like it really depends on the nature of what stress is being
Yeah.
created for me. Because sometimes for me, like things that actually aren't stressful in terms of mental input or like workload are more stressful than things that in theory should be more stressful if you look at it from like an intensive task and like work perspective. Because I know for me, when my schedule gets crammed, I get stressed, even if what I'm doing is not inherently difficult or anything like that. I would feel less stressed having a gigantic assignment due, but I have like, you know, I know when I'm doing it. Yeah, and it's only going to take me 3 hours. Then my whole day filled with stuff that I need to get done. So Yeah.
But then I feel like that's like also a problem when it comes to like things like IAs.
What happens to me is like, for example, when I get like a 6 or a 7, that is really good. When I get it, I mean, I feel happy maybe, but it's like something I had to. It's like a normal thing. And when I don't get that 6 or a 7, I feel like very bad. So it's like
Yeah.
I feel worse when I don't get it than happy when I get it. You know?
Yeah.
Well, I also feel like, for me personally, when there's a time constraint and like I'm kind of rushed and pressured into doing something, I do better on it and I work harder on it because I know that there's like limited amount of time.
Yeah. I feel like that's definitely a thing for a lot of people.
A
in
lot
high
of
school.
people I think
Yeah.
work better under pressure, but like
But that's
obviously
really not a great system, especially if you're doing the IB.
A lot of people like procrastinate. So
Mm.
you're just sitting there doing nothing, just like stressed about this work you have to do, and then you do nothing, and then you just do it all in 1 hour.
Yeah.
And it's kind of good.
But then
like,
the
you
thing is
submit
like
it and
like
it's
at,
late.
it's told like we're all told by our teachers that the reason that they have multiple different types of tests with different percentages of like weight, like on our grade, like they all say that like everyone has their own way of dealing with things. Some people can perform well in one-on-one things. Other people perform better, like a lot better in like essays and take-home assignments. So I think that like there's definitely a high percentage of people that agree with me when I say that like I get some of my best works come from the night before, right?
I would 100% agree. Absolutely, yes.
It's weird how they want you to do everything in steps. Like for our AI.
But they want us to do that because they
I
want
mean,
us to
for
pace
me
ourselves.
personally, yeah, I find that better. If I
I
have
don't
too
like
much to
that.
do at one point, I kind of just freeze and I don't do anything.
Mhm.
Like if I have a ton of tests.
No, I like to sit down
just don't
and
do
do
anything.
it all
True,
from start to
yeah.
finish.
That stress kind of creates that motivation. It's like,
Yeah.
I agree.
but sometimes that stress can become so much that like you need to wait until the last second to handle it, and then
Yeah.
you realize it's like it's either gonna happen or it's not.
Yeah.
So you sit down for that hour. And
It's like each individual class, like take it as you just have math, right? And they say you have your like EE on top of stuff, but then you have your IA, all the homework that you have to do, the test that you have to do, and I imagine that we do some investigation at one point, right? So they're doing that is like fine. Getting deadlines for that is fine, but getting 6 other classes, like on top of that with the exact same stuff, it's now doubled up so much that everything is overlapping and you always have something to.
And then in class you do the in-class work and it's a complete separate like.
And if you
separate-
don't do it on time, it
yeah,
becomes
if you
homework.
don't do it, you have to do it after. Like it's such a like vicious cycle
Yeah.
of like constant torture.
I also feel like it's really like it's very like habit based because a lot of people like I feel like before IB it was like pretty easy to like be able to like just do things
Yeah, you
like
would have
the
like,
day or the night before because it wasn't as like complicated and I feel like a lot of people just like set that habit like I don't have to do anything until the night before it's due. But now that we're in the IB because like there's like so many more assignments that are actually like complex and aren't just like fill out a worksheet, you know, like it's a lot harder to get like stuff done the night before and that's like really negatively affecting like a lot
Yeah,
of
so you
people
really
in
have
their
to
grades.
space it out. So-
Yeah.
And people aren't very good at spacing stuff out.
Well,
Yeah.
for me, like you said, Freya, like when I have too much work, I'll just freeze up and then like miss a deadline or something because I'll like wait until like the last moment, like the night before or something, which is like builds up that pressure, which can be good in like some ways, but also like
And it just becomes too overwhelming.
Yeah, especially in terms of like the quality of the stuff you produce after that.
Yeah.
What do you think causes people to put pressure on themselves?
For me personally, I feel like it's like my brother as well, because my older brother, he got like really grades all throughout the IB, really good grades all throughout the IB, and right now he's going to like one of the Russell groups in the UK.
The
Which-
Russell groups.
You know Ivy League?
Yeah.
It's like the Ivy League but of the UK, right? So basically it's just like really good universities that are like hard to get into most of the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like because like I watched him like do really well and he was always like really diligent with his work. Like he was just one of those people that like got stuff done like once he saw it. Like he didn't let things sit and like and do stuff like the night before. So I feel like sometimes like if I get a worse like semester, like if I get like a worse GPA than him or something like that, like I kind of feel like pressured, like I should be doing more, you know.
So,
Do you have?
I would say that like the pressure also helps to like the motivation.
Yeah.
Because, for example, imagine that there's nothing after the IB like course. So if there's nothing after that, you have no motivation to do it like very
Like
well.
seeing other people do well makes you want to do well.
Yeah, also.
I think sorry. I think part of it, like for me personally, what stresses me out the most, or the reason I put the most pressure on myself, is because I want to do medicine after I graduate, and for that you need really good grades. And so I feel like if I'm not getting those grades and if I'm not getting them easily, then I don't deserve to go and do medicine. So even if I am getting the grades needed, if it's not easy enough, or if it feels like I have to work too hard towards it, it just feels like stressful.
I think like a lot of us have. I want to say that a lot of people at FIS, we're at FIS because I think all of us can just like kind of say that like people, their parents are either like, I'm just gonna be like plain with it, they're either wealthy enough to send you to this good IB school,
or they have a company
that has organized it so that they could come and work. There's a reason that they're paying for the school or something, right?
Yeah.
The reason is because your parent, one of your parents, whoever is the reason that you're in Germany, is good at their job enough that the company says, we want you to move and we're going to pay for your kids' schools if you do, right? So that automatically means to me, at least, right, that everyone at this school, their parents are either one, like quite wealthy, and which means that they made something of themselves, or they're good enough at whatever that they do. They're good enough at whatever they do to like be able to send you to the school.
So, like,
so
it's definitely very privileged.
like set.
So regardless of how you're at FIS, if you are at FIS, your parents have this, like, it's almost like an unconscious thing that you, or a subconscious thing that you think about, is that like they performed well enough and you want to perform well enough because of it, right? Like I know that I don't want to let like my mom down for like everything that she's done to have me like in this school, but at the same time, my entire like my mom, my dad, my brother, they're all like really smart when it comes to things like math, physics, and engineering, as well as accounting and stuff like that. Like they're a lot smart, so I have this like general pressure for me to do well in said subjects.
Sarah, I feel like you said like the reason you want to do good is because of your brother, because he does good.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the opposite for me. Like that's the reason I can do kind of mediocre. Because my sister basically did like super well in my IB. Like she failed. Bro, she like failed like twice.
So don't say that.
Like cut that out. Anyway, yeah, she failed twice.
Yeah.
So my parents don't have too high expectations. Like they like praise me for getting a 5.9 GPA, which is not a bad GPA, but like compared to like when I asked around, everyone like 7. I don't understand how the average, if it's 5.4 in our school, if everyone is getting 7s, I swear.
No, you just
anyone
do really bad on the IB exam.
Like I don't understand, like. Yeah.
But like what you're saying about like your sister, like I feel like having an older sibling, that especially if they go through like the same like system.
Your life so much.
And even having a younger sibling.
It really affects it, huh?
Even having a younger sibling, you set the expectation for them.
Yeah.
That's
like,
true.
Even though nobody expects me to do as good as my sister, I expect me to do as good as my sister, because it's like I want to just like prove that I'm good. If
I
not
think
better.
as a younger sibling, there's this general consensus that you want to kind of do better than your older sibling.
Well,
Absolutely.
Also, like, as an older sibling, like, it's kind of a little bit of pressure, but, like, in a different way. It's, like, setting that, like, expectation for everybody, I guess. And being like, oh, like, if I'm getting, like, 5s or something, but then my brother's getting, like, 6s and stuff, 6s and 7s, it'll be, like, for me, I'm like, oh, when I was in that grade, I was getting, like, worse than him.
That's something that I've seen, like, definitely, like, in, like, with me and my brother, that I've seen in other families as well, like, things like, or, like, my friends telling me about stuff, like, when my brother would get really good grades, and I would get really bad ones, he would feel bad for when I would get yelled at for having said bad grades, because by proxy, he makes me look bad.
Yeah.
So I feel like this pressure definitely...
That's so nice.
Yeah. It's definitely different, I feel like, for... Like, there's definitely a clear difference in pressure between, like, people with, like, siblings and then only children. Because only children, usually they put pressure on themselves, or the parents put pressure on them.
I feel like they look up to... Their like, role model is their parents, while typically speaking, like, in some cases, I can't speak for everyone, but, like, younger siblings, their role models are their older siblings.
Absolutely. I know, look, personally for me, I have a brother who's in college now, and he did fairly well in school. Granted, it's the AP curriculum, not IB, but it's essentially the same thing. And my cousin is in an extremely high-ranking university in the Ivy League, which is another thing that just makes you think, like, wow, like, do I need to be there? Like, is that, if I don't get there, like, will I be looked at as a disappointment? Like, and it's funny because even if even at me myself, I'm a very relaxed person, grades wise and academically. Like I'm not, to be completely honest, it's not necessarily like life or death for me. You know, like a 5 for me.
Last report showed that.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with whatever comes through, what happens.
We don't really have any other statistics to go over, so I think that's it for this specific podcast.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
I love you.
Oh my god.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.